道合ってるのこれ。なんか外埋まってんだけど雪で。よし行こう。ここも危ないね。ちょっとね、斜面。滑る。
YouTube is home to all sorts of videos, ranging from entertaining to downright disturbing. With 500 hours of content uploaded to YouTube every minute, it's no doubt that some of the footage is going to be darker than the rest. Tonight, I'll be covering 5 disturbing stories and their associated videos that can still be found on YouTube to this day. So sit back and relax, because this is terrifying footage found on YouTube.
He didn't do anything to provoke the guy. The guy just took a knife out and stabbed him. Started stabbing him like crazy and cut his head off.
Southeast of the Sinai Peninsula lies an incredibly perilous marine cavern named the Blue Hole. The Blue Hole is famous for its 26-meter-long tunnel, known as the Arch, that leads to the sea at 120 meters in depth before dropping off into an abyss of over 1,000 meters deep. Well over 100 divers are estimated to have died while traversing the Blue Hole, one of those being a 22-year-old Russian man named Yuri Lipsky. On April 28, 2000, Yuri Lipsky began filming his venture into the Blue Hole. The footage starts with Lipsky at the surface, and after a couple of minutes, he begins descending rapidly. One hour before Lipsky began his dive, he met with a diver named Tariq Omar, who had already been exploring the Blue Hole for 8 years at the time. Lipsky told Omar that he wanted to film the Arch, to which Omar responded that Lipsky would have to train with him for 2 weeks. Lipsky declined Omar's offer and, a short while later, was sinking into the Blue Hole, alone. As I mentioned earlier, Lipsky was descending far too quickly. Omar believes that the reason Lipsky began to involuntarily descend so quickly was due to the extra weight from his camera, making him too heavy for his buoyancy control device, or BCD. Obviously, this is troublesome, because at just 30 meters deep, Lipsky will begin to notice the effects of nitrogen narcosis, leading to anxiety, calculation errors, delayed responses to stimuli, and the impairment of reasoning. Over 2/3 of the way through the video, and Lipsky's breathing is much more abnormal sounding. But it isn't until Lipsky lands at a depth of 115 meters that he begins to panic. At this depth, Lipsky could be experiencing any of the following symptoms of nitrogen narcosis, making it extremely difficult for him to escape the situation and rise to the surface. In the final seconds of the video, we can see Lipsky's now detached diving regulator as he attempts to fill his BCD, unfortunately to no avail. After 7 minutes and 15 seconds, the footage cuts off and Lipsky dies soon after, unable to make his way back to the surface. The following day, Omar dives into the Blue Hole and retrieves Lipsky's body, including the camera, with this very footage that was later uploaded to YouTube titled "Fatal Diving Accident Caught on Tape." On the 28th of October 2019, a 47-year-old man named Tetsu Shiohara, known online as Tetsu, began to livestream himself climbing up a snowy Mount Fuji. Though Mount Fuji's climbing season had already ended over a month earlier and climbing on the mountain was prohibited, Tetsu continued to climb. Everything had been going fine thus far, though viewers recount Tetsu commenting on the amount of snow and complaining about not bringing disposable heating pads with him. As he approached the peak, Tetsu spoke on how slippery the snow and ice is, before unfortunately losing his balance and sliding off the side of the mountain, all being captured on livestream. Footage from Tetsu's stream still exists on YouTube today, though nothing graphic is shown, and the footage cuts off after a few seconds.
待って行こう。脇作戦で。うわ滑る。滑んな。ここ滑るな。危険、ちょっと危険。ちょっと待って、シャドウが30度ぐらいあるけど、ちょっと待って。滑るな。危ないな。ちょっと待って、ここ岩あるでしょ。その岩を伝っていこう。この小さい岩。危ない。そう。なかなか危ない、ここな。滑って下山する。よし。岩を耐える。やばい。よし、行こう。斜面になっちゃってるな。この道が埋まってね、半分ね。雪で。よし、行こう。行けた。道合ってるのこれ。なんか外埋まってんだけど、雪で。よし、行こう。ここも危ないね。ちょっとね、斜面。滑る。うわ。
Tetsu Shiohara's body was discovered 2 days later at an altitude of around 3,000 meters, with Mount Fuji itself being around 3,776 meters tall. The body was suspected to be Tetsu's, but wasn't identified until about 2 weeks after it was found. At 6:55 p.m. on July 30th, 2008, 22-year-old Tim McLean would board Greyhound bus 1170 from Edmonton to Winnipeg, not knowing that, in less than 2 hours, he would be killed by one of the other passengers. Tim McLean sat alone at the back of the bus, but was soon accompanied by a 40-year-old man named Vince Lee, who had moved from the front of the bus to come sit with McLean. Soon after this, McLean fell asleep with his headphones on. Lee then pulled out a large knife and repeatedly stabbed McLean in the neck before decapitating him and beginning to eat his flesh. As this was happening, the bus driver pulled over on the side of the road and all the passengers evacuated the bus. Those who tried to help McLean were unfortunately unsuccessful. From 9 p.m. to 1:30 a.m., Vince Lee was in a standoff with the police before jumping out of the window of the bus and subsequently being arrested. Most of McLean's body remained on the bus, however some of it was found in Lee's pockets, and some parts were never recovered and presumed to be eaten. 2 days after the incident, 2 separate interviews with McLean's fellow passengers were uploaded to YouTube, covering the gruesome crime in detail and what it was like to be there during the attack. Here are their testimonies.
I was just reading a book. All of a sudden I heard a guy screaming. I turned around and the guy sitting right next beside me was standing up and stabbing another guy with a Rambo knife, pretty much. It was a big survival knife like this in the throat. Repeatedly. Told everybody to get off the bus. Everybody started to get off the bus. The guy still kept stabbing him. Everybody got off the bus. Me and a trucker that had stopped and the Greyhound driver ran up to the door to maybe see if the guy was still alive or we could help or something like that. And when we all got up, we seen that the guy was cutting off the guy's head. he was cutting off the guy's head there. And he saw us. He came back to the front of the bus. It was at that point that he started walking to the front of the bus, and he had the head in his hand, and he just looked at us like this and dropped it on the ground, like totally calm. I think I was the first one to really realize what was going on and just screamed, like, stop the bus, someone's getting stabbed, everybody get the hell off. The people at the front of the bus didn't really understand what was going on, so it almost turned into like a trample scene there, and everybody trying to get off the bus. But the guy, he didn't care at all. He wasn't concerned with anybody but the guy that he was stabbing. He looked totally calm. He didn't say a word, I don't think, to anybody on the bus. I think he got out and had a cigarette with one girl. Nothing, just totally calm. The guy that he stabbed was listening to his headphones and sleeping. He didn't do anything to provoke the guy. The guy just took a knife out and stabbed him. Started stabbing him like crazy and cut his head off.
How are you feeling when you saw what was happening?
I got sick after I saw the head thing.
Well, I was sitting on the bus, and we just got left town of Brendan, and we were watching Zorro, and next thing I know, I hear somebody scream, and I look back, and there's some big guy holding this little fella up against, like, between the bathroom door and the seat, and he was moving. It kind of looked like a fight, but somebody said a knife, so we all run off the bus. He was getting stabbed. So I'm making sure everybody's okay right outside, and these other guys are containing the door. Then they went back on the bus and come off the bus and told everybody to get back because they thought he was coming out. His hand come out the door with the knife, looked like it was trying to cut their... He went back on the bus, and then they braced the door, and he come back, standing in the doorway was the head, looked at him, dropped the head, went back and started cutting Buddy back up, right? So they make us leave and go up by the tractor trailer, and I'm standing by the tractor trailer, and it's starting to get dark, and the cops are there, and he comes up and he picks the head up, and he's waving it in the window. I just smoked a cigarette with this man earlier, right? The head, and he's shaking it back and forth to the window, and it's right intense, right? It's sickening, and I was just making sure. I wasn't worried about myself at the time. I was just worried about everybody else being okay, right?
Tell me what it's like to see a man who's just killed somebody holding up
the human's
head.
That's disturbing. I laid down in bed tonight at about 4 o'clock, thought I'd go to sleep for an hour because I've been up just stressing, right? Making sure everybody's all right. And I closed my eyes and I seen him in the window there just like a madman. I couldn't see really what his face looked like, but he was wearing a black shirt and he was a tank, right? Holding his head up in the window like he's right in his right mind, taunting the cops with it. I was like, oh yeah, really? But it was just disturbing.
These now 15-year-old videos serve as a reminder for the tragic event that took place that day. Lee was ultimately ruled not criminally responsible for McLean's murder due to his severe schizophrenia, and after spending many years in a mental hospital, the Manitoba Criminal Code Review Board ordered that Lee be discharged with no legal restrictions as of February 10th, 2017. Over 12 years ago, a man named Stephen McDaniel broke into his neighbor's apartment and strangled his neighbor to death. From there, McDaniel dismembered her body with a hacksaw and threw her body parts into a dumpster. This victim's name was Lauren Giddings, one of McDaniel's former classmates at Mercer University in Georgia. At the time, Stephen McDaniel was 25 years old and was clearly disturbed, as he would often post online about his hatred for women and his desire to torture them. So when the morning of June 26, 2011 came around, McDaniel would break into Giddings' apartment using a master key and brutally murder her. As I said beforehand, McDaniel would dump almost all of Giddings' body into one dumpster on campus. However, he decided to stow away her torso in a dumpster right outside of the apartment. This is an infamous story that many others, including myself, have covered for two reasons in particular: McDaniel's interrogation and his interview with the news station. At the time of McDaniel's interview with WGXA, it wasn't known that McDaniel killed Giddings. he was just being interviewed as someone who claimed to be a concerned friend of Giddings. McDaniel, thinking he had gotten away with the crime, didn't know one piece of crucial information before the interview started, and that was that the police had found Lauren Giddings' torso in the dumpster next to the apartment.
They entered her apartment to see if there was anything wrong. It was also the first time McDaniel found out that a portion of Lauren Giddings' body had been recovered by police from the dumpster where he had put it. Knowing now that McDaniel had murdered and dismembered Giddings, the interview provides a glimpse inside the mind of a killer as he builds his story and his alibi. Take a look.
Person that was living there?
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since. We don't know where she is. I mean, the only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. Because I mean, we went over. One of her friends had a key. We went inside and tried to see if there was anything amiss, but I mean, she had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in. I mean, the door was locked when everyone got here. I mean, we just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of, I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's how we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
When the interviewer mentions the found body, you can see McDaniel realize that he's going to be caught as he walks away from the camera. McDaniel was eventually convicted for murder and was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 30 years. On July 6th, 2014, 28-year-old Lars Matank was on vacation in Bulgaria with 5 of his friends, planning to fly back home the next day. Matank and his friends were at a bar when he got into a dispute with some other men about German football clubs. This led to Matank leaving the bar and disappearing for the rest of the night, only showing up the following morning to tell his friends that he was beaten up by 4 men hired by the group from the bar. When Matank visited a doctor, he was diagnosed with a ruptured eardrum and was advised not to fly, meaning he could not make it back home from his vacation, and Matank's friends flew back without him. After his friends left, Matank called his mother from his hotel and told her that people were trying to kill him. During his time at the hotel, CCTV cameras recorded Matank pacing up and down the halls and hiding in an elevator before calling his mother again and telling her that the people trying to kill him were getting closer. Matank was last spotted at Varna Airport on July 8th, where he visited the airport's doctor, who said it was alright for him to fly back home to Germany. All of a sudden, Matank began to tremble before yelling out, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here." Matank then began to run from the office and out of the terminal. Security camera footage uploaded to YouTube showcases Matank's final moments at the airport before he escapes and is never seen again. Nobody knows what might have caused Matank to start acting so paranoid, and nobody knows what has happened to Matank after running away. Some, including Matank's mother, believe his psychotic behavior was caused by a rare side effect of the antibiotic he was prescribed for his ruptured eardrum, that being cephalosporin. However, according to the doctor at the airport, Matank had not been taking his medication. To this day, we don't know what has happened to Lars Matank, and all we're left with is his footage from right before his disappearance.